Yes, I see a Marine running. There's one boy been hit. One boy's been hurt now. Another boy's just been hit. Another boy's been hit. But, well, they stick a guy in the field. Oh, there's one Marine lying on his back. Now we're at the feet. There's one Marine lying on his back with blood pouring out of him into the water. And here go the corpsmen are walking around. They don't seem to be taking any cover. They're walking upright, looking for casualties, moving from one guy to the next.
On the battlefield, I was saved by an angel. I never knew his name, nor was I able to thank him for the life he gave me. Iwo Jima survivor.
I solemnly pledge myself before God and these witnesses to practice faithfully all of my duties as a member of the Hospital Corps. I hold the care of the sick and injured to be a privilege and a sacred trust, and will assist the medical department officer with loyalty and honesty. I will not knowingly permit harm to come to any patient. I will not partake of nor administer any unauthorized medication. I will hold all personal matters pertaining to the private lives of patients in strict confidence. I dedicate my heart, mind, and strength to the work before me. I shall do all within my power to show in myself an example of all that is honorable and good throughout my naval career.
Whenever a United States Marine or sailor has been badly wounded on America's battlefields, his chances of getting to a doctor in time to save his life have been close to nothing. But his chances of staying alive have been superb because of the bloody sacrifices of America's most consistently unsung heroes, the Navy Hospital Corpsmen. They are not doctors. Their training is measured in weeks instead of years. But it has been their job to be at the center of battle, lightly armed and carrying no more medical supplies than can be dragged in a shoulder bag. They save lives wholesale, and in performing their duty, they have died willingly in shocking numbers.
Although technically Navy personnel, corpsmen were assigned to Marine companies, and for all intents and purposes, they were Marines.
Marines frankly love their corpsmen. I don't think they use those words, but they truly value the service that their corpsmen render to their company, their platoon, their battalion. They're a special breed.
You know what your duty is. You know what's expected of you. You're not going to let your buddies down. You're not going to let your Marines down. You're part of a team.
We landed at Guadalcanal on the 7th of August, 1942, trying to be compliant with the Articles of War, the laws of war. Our corpsmen dutifully wore their brassards and their markers on their helmets, and they carried only light sidearms to protect their patients. The Japanese quickly disabused them of this tendency. Right from the start, they would target the corpsmen, I think realizing how valuable they were to the Marines. Kill the corpsmen, kill the morale of that unit. It didn't take long for the corpsmen to remove these markers and try to be as undistinguishable from the other infantrymen as they possibly could.
Corpsmen for the special hell that was Iwo Jima, where they would suffer over 800 killed and wounded.
Iwo Jima was the biggest and bloodiest battle in Marine Corps history. It was more than 5 weeks of unremitting frontal assault. There were no sanctuaries. There were no R&R areas. You might take a rifle company out of the front lines and put them in reserve for a couple of days, but the corpsmen in particular had no rest.
You had to do the most traumatic things were the traumatic amputations and the spilled out abdominal cavities. These are the things that were mind-boggling. You're up to your elbows in blood. Your mindset was only on what you were supposed to be doing, but you were numb with fear just as much as anybody else.
There was always a shortage of corpsmen, and these corpsmen not been as well trained as they were, and dedicated as they were, and unselfish as they were, we would have never made it.
Keep going like an automatic robot. You just continue doing what you've done automatically rather than trying to stop and analyze each thing. You just take a look and you see it, and your brain just tells you what to do. You're in such a mental trance that you just have no idea what you're doing half the time. Your hands sort of never fail to do the right thing that you were taught to do back in hospital corps school, how to take care of wounded men.
Bitter and bloody fighting continued. The only solace the Marines found on Iwo came from knowing that a corpsman was always close by.
The amazing thing about a corpsman is that they respond to every cry and everybody that's in need.
I don't care how heavy the fire was and how much it was out in the open. If someone hollered corpsman, a corpsman came running.
When you've got to go out where somebody's been wounded and take care of them, you're putting yourself right into the same spot they were. So the chances you're not getting hit are almost unbelievable. But that's what these guys do constantly. They're very courageous.
The life of a corpsman is very, very fragile.
It still rattles around in my mind where a guy would get hit and he would yell, "Corpsman," just a begging kind of a plea. It wasn't a command, you know, like, "Corpsman, come here," or that type thing. It would be a plea, "Come." And he'd show up.
Marines reported that English-speaking Japanese soldiers would shout "corpsman" in hopes of luring the medics into an ambush. Some frontline Marines foiled the Japanese trick by shouting a code name instead of corpsman.
Tallulah Bankhead, I guess, was a famous Broadway singer, actress at that particular time. So they used her name to call for a corpsman because the Japanese couldn't pronounce the L's very well, apparently. And I called for the corpsman. Tallulah, he came over there to where this guy is. And I said, "Jesus, look." And he's looking at him, and he starts crying. And I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I can't fix anybody else. I can't look at any more blood." He said, "I'm through with this. I'm never going to do this again." He said, and I tried to comfort him, and he was crying, sobbing. And somebody hollered out, "Tallulah." And he hears it. He jumps up and grabs his bag and runs to the next thing.
It wasn't but a minute or two until I heard the corpsman saying, "Oh, Jesus, help me." He was attending a wounded Marine whose part of his skull had been blown away. And I said, "Roy, I'm not Jesus, but I'll help you." We bandaged his head. There wasn't really much to do, and he'd given him a shot of morphine. The man was dying, and we knew it. And just a few minutes, he expired with his last gasp.
I won't care.